Welcome back to the OP Survival Series. This is episode 32. Half a stack of episodes so far. That's pretty cool. But anyways, today we are going to be building up the first part of my base. 2 episodes ago, I showed off that I had cleared out this giant section of land. And now that I've planned out what I want my storage part of the base to be, I'm now realizing that this needs to be a lot bigger. And you know, that's not a bad thing, but I don't know, it's just gonna take a long time to get everything else in. But as I said in the last video, I kind of planned out what I want the base to look like. I think most people do this when they build things. Instead of just starting, when you're trying to do something big, you have to plan it out first, and that's kind of what I've done here. And it looks a little strange. There's little parts popping out like this. This is 2 blocks out. This one is also 2. That one's 1. That one's like 5. And it's not even. They're all kind of, it seems random, but trust me, there is a explanation for everything, including why there's no backside to this. So, to show off why all of this is happening, I'm going to cut over to my creative test world where I have actually made most of this already in creative. So here we are. This is not the fully completed build, but this is just a good idea of what it's going to look like. The windows I didn't do throughout the whole thing, but this will be kind of the ideal pattern of a wall. Just imagine this throughout the entire thing. This is going to be covered in windows, because a lot of the source images that I've seen, I never realized how many windows are in houses like this. I don't really have a way to describe this house. You can tell that it is old-fashioned, but it's even kind of wearing down for the time, because my base is going to have an Industrial Revolution theme to it. So I looked up Industrial Revolution building. That's what I looked up. Most of it was like poor housing, you know, giant lines of brick houses, very bland and generic. And I wanted something a little bit more grand, because this is my base. And I think I'm actually going to be making some brick houses for the trading halls for the villagers, because they're kind of like the workers. You get the idea. So this is my base, and if we go into the main entrance, it looks kind of weird. This is a giant stairway going immediately straight down. There's no halls going out into like what you would expect from a house. And that is because the inside is going to be completely made with the intention of being a functioning base. And the outside is meant to look pretty. The idea with this entry is that I fly around with my elytra a lot. And I'm going to be coming into this base with my elytra, so I need a big enough area to go down. And I think this is a pretty good sized hole to go down to. And I didn't know if I wanted it to kind of curve inwards, kind of like a circle shape, because it kind of goes down like that, and then it'll curve into the wall kind of. I'm still not sure if I like this or not. Here's what I started with, just very flat wall. And over here we have the curved, obviously. And I can't really decide what I like, so I'll have to figure that out later in the survival world. And on the back side, it's pretty flat and not done. On the sides, I have this typical, I have no idea what you would call this, but it's on the sides of houses that are triangle shaped, and they end suddenly, so the line kind of lines up right here, and the roof stops at this one point, and then it kind of builds up like squares or rectangles or something like that. I know my descriptions are not very good, but I have no idea what this is called. I tried to, I'll admit, I struggled a bit trying to figure out how I could get inspiration for this. The source image that I used for this building is right here on the screen. You can see it. And it didn't have a full view of the side of the house, so I didn't know what to call this when I searched it up in Google. I ended up looking at, I think it was, had something to do with triangle-shaped roof. And I eventually decided to not look at Google and just try it myself, and it actually turned out pretty good. So life lesson for you: if you can't find it on Google, just do it yourself. You know, that should probably be your number one priority, but who cares? Never mind. Just to make it a little bit more interesting, I added this section that's branching out, so it kind of has an L shape to it. This side, however, does not have the abrupt stop with the roof. This one actually kind of rounds out, but in a square shape. And then over here, I started designing a gate. I really like the use of candles on this. Pretty much perfect timing with, you know, starting this build when the update came out, because I couldn't think of a better item to use than candles for this. I mean, what else would I use? Like chains? No. Bars would stick together. I mean, candles are just perfect for making a cool gate design. Over here we have a pretty basic gate design. I'll probably change this somehow. And then the fence continues over here, and then it will end at this building. There's something different about this building that's different from pretty much every build that I've done in the past 1 or 2 years. And that difference being, it's not angled. It's full 90-degree turns only. Classic Minecraft build style. You know, it's hard to go wrong, but there's no spice to it. And I'm not saying that builds that are not angled are always bad. I think that there's less room to make things more interesting. And I think that every major build needs to have some sort of angled buildings or something angled, unless, you know, you're making something very geometric or something. And so over here, I've already set up a plan for an angled rectangle shaped building. I don't know what I'm gonna have in here. I was thinking a smelting room, or like a super smelter that I would, you know, do all my smelting in, and you know, because the name. But then I realized that the long shape of this house is perfect for a long super smelter, because that's usually how they're shaped. And I'm thinking that I might actually do a super smelter on the inside of this building, and then the item storage and sorter will be on the bottom. Of course, all this is yet to be decided, as well as what I want to do back here. I'm thinking a garden of some sort. Probably not very detailed and lush as mini garden builds are. I think mainly path blocks. Where is that? Mainly these path blocks, and then some occasional, you know, coarse dirt with some leaves will do rather nicely. So maybe I'm just talking about nonsense. Maybe nothing of what I'm saying right now will actually happen in the survival world. But before I get on to doing that, I want to build this side of the house, because this is, I have my full vision of what I want this house to look like. Even though it's not this full vision, I know what I want to do. So I've wasted enough time here in the creative world. Now it's time to hop back in the survival world and get started on building this in survival. As much as I would like to do an awesome time lapse of building this massive, as much as I would like to do a long time lapse of building this massive house, I can't, because the replay mod is not out in 1.17 yet. So I'm just going to have to do a cut in 3, 2, 1, boom. Now, I have not completed as much in this survival world as I have in my testing creative world. And that's most evident by the lack of a fourth wall. So right now I just have the basic shape with a few details like the bars at the top, the trapdoors on the side, and then the looms along here. Is that, yeah, that's what it's called. But the roof is on except for half of it. And then we got the towers that are kind of sticking out on the outside, and then the entrance, which goes down to this room. And besides that, nothing else is done. And I've been working for about a day, and not just on this. The reason I've only gotten this much done is partly because I had to fix my piglin bartering farm because the update messed up one of the data packs, and I needed a lot of string from that. And yeah, because these take 2 string to make each, and I just didn't have that much, so I had to get some string. But also, I started working on what I want for the basement, I'm gonna call it. Even though it's front entrance, it goes straight down to the basement, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This is not about being a functioning house if it were real. This is about making a functioning base in Minecraft. And down here we're gonna have storage for every single stackable item obtainable in survival. And that seems like a lot, and well, it is. I laid down every single block that I want to store. Look at this. There's so many things. This includes blocks and items, and the ones that are kind of in between, like the flowers. Basically all I did was I went through the creative menu and then grabbed everything that I could and then left out some things like bedrock and the path block, which are not obtainable in survival. And then over here, I think this was already in the world when I showed off this building. By the way, that took up like 8 minutes of the video. I didn't even realize until I edited that part into the video. And now, this was a test for, obviously, storing the items. This was the first one I made. Basically how it works is we've got one row of chests that kind of gradually goes up. So there's 3 double chests full of storage and some hoppers too. And I have these hoppers which will filter out the items that I want to go into it. And then a stair so this can be opened. And then item frames with the item in it. And this, it's not bad, but it could be better. I don't want to spoil that yet. So, I eventually came up with a better design, which is right here. This can store 3 rows of items. Plus, I don't need to use item frames. I can just place the block right there, and it still opens. This basically functions the same way. We've got 3 double chests full of storage, which kind of goes up in the same pattern, and then the sorting. This line right here would be where the items go in, and then they flow through the whole thing. And if they can fit through the filter, they will go through and then get thrown into the storage. And then we've got that multiplied by 3 in this design. So I took this design and I put it into this build right here. This is basically what I want the storage room to be filled with. In just this tiny amount of space, I can fit 3 times 6 times 3. I think that's 52, if I remember correctly. I can't do math that fast. It's 52 unique items in this one little slot. And if I have like a hallway right here, I can just come in here, look around, and pick out what I need. Maybe I need pork, raw pork. Besides the sorting system, which I kind of already showed, I also made the floor design, which I want to be deep slate. Not all the same kind. Maybe some cracked deep slate, some normal tiled, maybe some bricks. And then here we have the wall, which is going to have a gradient of different blocks, and I just kind of threw them around randomly. It doesn't really matter what I put in here. This is just to gather what I want to do. And then I'll have some lights kind of scattered on the roof, not in a symmetrical manner, just kind of randomly. And then also, I kind of want to use stuff like this, mainly the lightning rod, for making this look like a real light, just to make it look like a real light that's getting powered from, you know, the lightning rods. So this is going to take a really long time to build and to set up, because look at this. This is a lot of hoppers, and it gets pretty complicated. So I'm not going to be able to do this in this video. I will start working on it in the next video, but it will probably take a long time until I can get this filled out, and I probably won't even finish it until I start working on something else, because I don't need to store every item right now. This is kind of my end goal for this project. So we're back here in the legit survival world, and this is the hole that I have so far. I already showed this. It's going to be a bit tricky to get the rest of this roof dug out. Either I'll have to do this or constantly be stacking upwards. I should actually start digging 2 blocks up, and then I can get rid of this later. Wait, that. Yeah. Yes, that will work. And as you saw with the last segment in the creative world, I need to dig out a huge space, not just to have the room to walk in, but also to have the space for the hoppers to run through, and also space that I can operate and get this thing running. So that is going to be what I tackle in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. I don't know why I mind that. I just wasn't thinking.